Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good to be together. Welcome, 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 welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Buffalo. Welcome on this Memorial Day Sunday. It is good to be together. My name is Joan Montagnes, and I have the honor and the privilege of serving you, this congregation, as minister. We're in a Zoom webinar. I think you know the drill. We can't hear or see you. You can't hear or see each other. You can hear and see our worship associate, Julie Taylor, and you'll be able to see our special guest star musician, Michelle Purdy, and you'll be able to see me. You can also chat with each other all the way through the service, and we offer closed captioning. If those will help you, if you find them distracting, you can turn them off using that CC button in your toolbar, and you can make the font bigger if that would help you. I want to offer out a big shout out to all our tech team, Josh Disick, John Petroselli, and especially Justin DeClean today because he's our tech today. Karen Streech does a marvelous job on our visuals. Bobby Withrow is usually doing our play-by-play, but today it's Tracy Kassman. And then there's all our music staff who just knock it out of the park every single week with their genius. So good to be together and have such an amazing worship team. I've got some announcements with you. General Assembly registration is open. We're looking for delegates. We've got scholarship. It's online this year, easy to get to. Y'all come. Just let me know if you want to go and I can help sign you up. And let me know through the email. Don't do it through the chat or I won't find it. The auction team has an announcement for you. Summer is here, and with it the chance of lots of fun and fellowship. It's time to eat and learn and laugh together. They are looking for donations. The auction team is looking for donations. If you maybe you can donate a dinner, an event, culinary treat, tour of something, services of some sort, music or artworks. It is the wonderful generosity of our members that makes the auction possible. So get in touch with Maria Testa and Julie Van Wart, and they will help you brainstorm your ideas. The catalog's going to be out in June. So bid early, bid often, bid high. It's always a good cause. I want to tell you about the Flower Communion this year. Flower Communion is one of our high holidays, and because we're going to be worshiping online, it will be a little different. It'll be a lovely service with a whole bouquet of people helping us out and speaking from the congregation. And at 12:30 to 2:30, you can come to the church garden entrance and receive a beautiful living plant for your garden or windowsill. It's a symbol of our living faith in your home. At the same time, you can bring in donations for the Evergreen Health Food Bank. Think toiletries, lots of toothbrushes, toothpaste, shampoo, that kind of thing, and non-perishable food items, cans of good food. Another announcement, Vespers every Friday night at 7 p.m. Come for music, community, candlelight, poetry, and meditation. This week, Martha Malkowitz is going to be treating us with her gifts of music. And who knows, if the weather is fine, we may even hear a bassoon. It would be lovely. Zoom fellowship time. At the end of this service, we go to a different meeting where you can hear and see each other. The address for that meeting is in the chat, in the e-blast, in the newsletter, and on the last slide of this worship service. And now, a special announcement from Michael Harris.
Hi, this is Mike Harris. I wanted to let you know about a brand new course that I'm teaching through the Unitarian Universalist Church of Buffalo. It's called Go West, Young Man. The History, Mythology, and Art of the American West, and it starts on Wednesday, June 2nd at 9:30 a.m. I've done a lot of these Wednesday morning classes for the church, and I always kick things off with a song about the topic at hand. Here's the song that I'll do at our first Zoom meeting this Wednesday at 9:30, sung to the tune of Cole Porter's Don't Fence Me In. Take it away, Jonathan. If city life's got you down, giddy up, get out of town. Go west, young man. If you long for a change with a home that's on the range, go west, young man. Just a hop, skip, and jump across the Mississippi. Head off to Seattle, though the weather's drippy. Or the San Francisco for the Gen X hippie. Go west, young man, and while you ride on the prairie, you will bury all those urban cares and woes. Right by your side's a bonita senorita, she's a Texas yellow rose. The Rio Grande is at hand and you're breathing freely. Cycle through the Rockies and you pop a wheelie. Follow that advice you got from Horace Greeley. Go west, young man. That trip by Lewis and Clark, Thomas Jefferson's the spark. He told them, go west, young man. When the gold miners boast about that California coast, of course, go west, young man. Take a homestead to farm, no one comes a cropper. Go to Colorado, make a mint in copper. Hollywood's a callin', be a real showstopper. Go west, young man. You've heard those tales of the ramblers and the gamblers and the way the West was won. No law prevails for the badman and the madman except the power of the gun. You'll be nonplussed, hardly must, while the dust condenses. You could ransom cattle kept in barbed wire fences. Maybe talking Mexican like Senor Wences. Go west, young man, you'll see the best of the West shown in all its splendor. And like Davy Crockett, be its great defender. Plus, there's no necessity to be cisgender. Go west, young man, and bold young women. Go west, young man. Call the church office at 885-2136 so that you too can join our virtual westward journey. Happy trails, y'all.
Thank you, Michael. Our call to worship this morning is from So Great a Cloud of Witness by Victoria Safford. Sometimes I still do what I did when I was very small. Close my eyes and try to picture them, my relatives, my people. Close my eyes and wait to see if I can see them walking toward me. See if someone's face or hand will reveal itself to me. And of course, they never do. And then I open my eyes, and here we all are, writing our names in the family Bible. We're defining and refining all our lives a worthy answer to the question about who our own people are, the ones to whom we feel grateful and accountable, ancestors, descendants, heroes and teachers, beloveds close beside us, strangers far away, expanding that circle ever wider till those on the margins are brought to the center and the whole family is truly whole.
One of the ways that we make the whole family truly whole is that Unitarian Universalist churches all around the world, when they begin to worship, light a chalice to mark a time as sacred. I can do this. There we go. Let's join in our chalice lighting affirmation. We gather in loving community, inspiring one another to transform ourselves to create a more just and compassionate world.
Familiar though his name may be to us, the storyteller in his living efficacy is by no means a force today. He has already become something remote from us and is moving ever further away. To present someone like Leskov as a storyteller does not mean bringing him closer to us, but rather means increasing our distance from him. Viewed from a certain distance, the great simple outlines which define the storyteller stand out in him, or rather, they become visible in him, just as a human head or an animal's body may appear in a rock when it is viewed by an observer from the proper distance and angle. This distance and this angle of vision are prescribed for us by an experience which we may have almost every day. It teaches us that the art of storytelling is coming to an end. One meets with fewer and fewer people who know how to tell a tale properly. More and more often, there is embarrassment all around when we wish to hear a story expressed. It is as if a capability that seemed inalienable to us, the securest among our possessions, has been taken from us. The ability to share experiences. One reason for this phenomenon is obvious. Experience has fallen in value. and it looks as if it may fall into bottomlessness. Every glance at a newspaper shows that it has reached a new low. That our image not only of the external world, but also of the moral world has undergone changes which were previously thought impossible. Beginning with the Great War, a process became apparent which continues to this day. Wasn't it noticeable at the end of the war that men who returned from the battlefield had grown silent, not richer, but poorer in communicable experience? What poured out in the flood of war books 10 years later was anything but experience that goes from mouth to mouth. And there was nothing remarkable about that. For never has experience been more thoroughly belied than strategic experience was belied by tactical warfare, economic experience by inflation, bodily experience by mechanical warfare, moral experience by those in power. A generation that had gone to school on horse-drawn streetcars now stood under an open sky in a landscape where nothing remained unchanged but the clouds. And beneath those clouds, in a field of force, of destructive torrents and explosions, the tiny, fragile human body.
Every week, we take a good portion of our Sunday morning offering and give it away to a social justice cause outside our church walls. This month, we are supporting the good work of Literacy Buffalo Niagara. Literacy Buffalo Niagara helps our community with literacy skills by providing free tutoring in Erie and Niagara counties. You can use PayPal by going to our website, buffalouu.org, and clicking on the blue Donate button. Or you can send a check by mail to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Buffalo at 695 Elmwood Avenue, Buffalo, New York, 14222. You can also arrange a regular automatic deposit with your bank. If yours is a gift to our Share the Plate ministry, please write share on the memo line and it will be shared between Literacy Buffalo Niagara and the church operating budget. If yours is a welcome gift to our congregation, please write Pledge 2021 on the memo line. Either way, please write UUCB on the important line and we will do the bookkeeping. Your generosity can begin to tell the story we've all been hoping to hear.
Loveliest of dreams, the cherry now is hung with bloom along the bough, and stands about the woodland ride, wearing white for Eastertide. Now of my 80 years and 20 will not come again, and take from 70 springs a score, it only leaves me 50 more. And since to look at things in
50 springs are little room about the woodlands I will go to see the cherry hung with snow.
Our reading today is from Grave Concerns by Jennifer Crossley Howard. Brandy Sparks sneaks outside to puff a cigarette and avoid cleanup in the fellowship hall. She and a dozen other women have spent the last 3 days scrubbing, dusting, and vacuuming Old Liberty Congregational Christian Church for this weekend. She puts on white sunglasses and steps down into the graveyard that nearly swallows this humble brick church in Lawrence County, Alabama. She points out a mother and daughter joint grave, died in 1868, that church congregants identified last year after months of research. She thinks the child was an infant because the unmarked slab is so small. That child and her relatives by death and blood sleep across the narrow road from a pasture so green it almost glows in the May sun. Families huddle under oaks and cedars, placing flowers on tombstones. Others have settled next to markers and lawn chairs, shielding themselves with umbrellas. There are too many people here for a church homecoming, and it's too hot to be Easter Sunday. Today, we are here to eat, remember, and bask in the southern fascination of death that is as sure as the first hellfire sermon that made you quake in the pews. It's Decoration Day. Now let's sing hymn number 1001, Breaths.
Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are in us in our homes. They are with us in this crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath breath. When the fire's voice is heard, 'tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Zah, 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 zah.
My uncle lived a great many years. He taught political science and was an authority on both parliamentary governance and whitewater canoeing. My cousin lived into his 20s, sang in the church choir, studied at Harvard, and took his life. My uncle and my cousin rest together in a family plot in a little cemetery in the country between a horse farm and a large market garden stand. Relatives by death and blood sleep across the narrow road from a pasture so green it almost glows in the sun. I close my eyes and try to picture them, my relatives, my people. Close my eyes and wait to see if I can see them coming toward me. Sometimes on a good day, often at night in dreams, we meet and talk. I go there to that little green cemetery in the country to visit their graves every summer, and I place a pebble on their shared tombstone as a decoration of memory. I sit in the shade of trees and tell stories to myself of their crazy black dog and swimming in the pond together and the snap of fly fishing and how love placed ice on my fingers when I slammed them in a car door. I remind myself of the story when my uncle, in his dementia, reached into his depth of knowledge to tell me that the Queen had done her job well because she walked in grace. And I tell myself the story of my cousin's tragedy caused by the church's neglect. Any day I visit them, brush away the pine needles from their chiseled names, and place a pebble on their tomb is Decoration Day. Decoration Day is the precursor to Memorial Day, brought to these shores by the Scots-Irish in their ever so slightly pagan version of Christianity. The original holy day was a celebration of ancestor worship and graveside feasts. Well, 3 years after the American Civil War ended, May 30th was declared a national holiday to set aside to decorate the graves of the war dead. It wasn't until 1971 that Congress named the last Monday in May, Memorial Day, a day to honor all Americans killed in armed conflict. So somewhere along the line, amid the grief and trauma of war, our loving connection to the greater cloud of ancestor witness was lost. Have you noticed that in our church, we rarely hold funerals in which the body of the beloved dead is welcome to attend? Sometimes the family will bring a discreet urn of ashes, but usually we simply display a tasteful portrait and a lovely snapshot collection which captures precious moments of life. But death is not invited to the event. Used to be, people died at home. Bodies were laid out in the family's front room, the parlor, until it was time for burial. The funeral usually happened within a day or two, so there was no need to preserve the corpse. This American tradition of hosting funerals in the family parlor is the genesis of the term funeral parlor. We really knew how to acknowledge death's role in the story of all life in those days. When Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, government officials decided to take the body on a national funeral procession. Because the procession took several weeks to complete, Lincoln's body was embalmed to preserve it. When Americans found out about the president's embalming, they decided to adopt it for their own personal burials. As embalming the dead became more commonplace, funeral traditions moved outside the home. Dying soon followed suit and moved to hospitals. And bodies eventually were heard of, but rarely seen. Death and dying became a very private affair. The ties between the ancestors and their living family were severed. Something was definitely lost. We're left defining and redefining all our lives a worthy answer to the question, to whom do we belong? The ones we feel grateful and accountable to. The ancestors, the descendants, our heroes and teachers, our beloveds, to whom do we belong? What family makes us truly whole beyond blood, beyond marriage, beyond this mortal coil? What great family makes us whole down to the root of our being? Perhaps it's time to reweave the ties between the ancestors and their living family. Perhaps we might tell the stories of memory and death, claim the death with as much loyalty as we claim our children, lest we forget that all this life will come to an end someday. Maybe it's time to tell the stories, identify our dead, retether ourselves to those who went before, learn and internalize their triumphs, agonies, and dreadful errors. It may take months, perhaps years, perhaps generations of research to expose their secrets and even to know our own questions. Each spring, cemeteries bloom with lilac, iris, and phlox, so bright they would shame an impressionist painter. A sunny day of throwing out dried plants, pruning back the roses, wiping a year's grime from a graveside stone, could soften the great blow of death. Imagine owning death as a part of life. Then it would not own us. It would simply be something we all do. My aunt also has a gravestone beside that of her husband and the one of her son in that little cemetery in the country, though she's still very much alive. She knows all too well that death will come as it comes to all of us. She's ready with a chosen resting place. I keep in touch with her and we remember together and tell the stories, and it hurts. And it also feels honest and good. Will there be an end? An end to all our grieving? No, never. Never. Loss is part of this fragile and imperfect gift of life. The searing pain is real and it never ends. We just change and grow in relationship to it. But know this, you are not alone. The beloved dead of blessed memory are alive in us as we move and live and breathe through the world. A community of the living and dead loves you and holds you always. To whom do you belong? You belong to all. Death teaches us about our most fundamental connections. Dust to dust, ashes to ashes, eternity to eternity. So go to the graveside and weep. Bring a picnic and your family of choice. Huddle under oaks and cedars. Place flowers on tombstones. Nestle next to markers. Sit down in lawn chairs, shielding yourself with umbrellas from the sun. Tell the stories. Weep and laugh. Our pastoral meditation today is from a book entitled If I Could Mend Your Heart by Mary I. Farr. If I could mend your heart.
I would weave together the ragged edges of your threadbare heart and soothe your pain, your shock, and disbelief. I would invite you to touch your sorrow and feel your feelings and not to pretend to be strong or capable or composed.
I would listen without comment to all that is unsettled in your soul, your doubts, your anger, your fear about the future. I would heed your cries and probing questions. What might you have done wrong? Or what might you have not done at all?
For more than a single ending, your loss may spark other sorrows, other conclusions, goodbyes, and thorny adjustments in every corner of your soul.
If I could mend your heart, I would promise not to say, look how well you're handling things, or cheer up, God wouldn't give you more than you can handle, or you'll be over this soon.
Instead, I would whisper in your ear, we live in a fragile and imperfect world tinged by brokenness and cloaked in unanswered questions. Some things truly aren't fair. This is hard.
I would tell you, getting over it isn't very helpful, and ask, can you try to let go of that idea? For I don't think loss is about handling things well or keeping it all together.
Loss is about keeping afloat in a rising tide of doubt, asking the silence, why? What is the meaning of this? It's about learning to coexist with an unwanted visitor, with alien thoughts and depleted spirits.
If I could mend your heart, I would draw you a plan and perfect map to light your path from confusion and despair to a place of new tomorrows and rewarding journeys, a place where anger could release its grip on understanding and anxiousness might speak to acceptance.
I would shape you for a fresh way of seeing through prisms of sunlight that warm your emptiness and guide the way to a new adventure. Prisms of sunlight that temper your pain with compassion and replace your doubts with faith, your grief with gratitude, your fear with trust.
If I could mend your heart, I would open wide the doors of renewed hope, a hope much larger than wishes, one that waits patiently, willingly, expectantly, anticipating good and knowing that life is worth living after all.
This hope that I wish for you would predict no answers, but invite you to live the questions. It would not demand exact outcomes, but ask you to risk letting go and bid you to move forward, even in the face of unease. This fresh hope I send would let you step up with courage to the new day, trusting that even pain can be transformed.
If I could mend your heart, I would lead you by the hand to this place of healing so that you might once again find your own path and make memories.
I would share with you a secret. Joy is not about music and dance and laughter, but about the acceptance of life.
Healing happens only where fear and love, joy and sorrow, tears and smiles can forge a lasting peace. The healing I speak of lies not in some safe place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage.
And until you reach that place, a place you may not know now believe exists, I will save your space and watch with confidence for your smiles yet to be.
Let us now remember all our loved ones, all our beloved dead. Let us bring them into this space, sacred space and time, this sanctuary of memory, caring, and hope. Let us bring all our beloved dead into this space. This year in our congregation, we mourn the loss of Donata Ahern, Kirk Bain, Doug Bizance, Pauline Clay, Robert Coles, Ellie Lawson, and John Segman. I invite you now to take this time to remember together, share the names of your loved ones of blessed memory. Bring their names into this place made sacred by our gathering, because it is good to remember together. We are surrounded by a great cloud of witness. Humbly we prevail in the face of death. Confidently we are fulfilled by life. Our strength is the strength of many. Indeed, it is the strength of the great family of all things, for we are connected each to all by the transformative power of love. Let us be confident and trusting that every human life is full of purpose. For a human life is sacred. It is sacred in its being born. It is sacred in its living, and it is sacred in its dying. So be it. Blessed be. And let the church say, Amen. Let's join in singing, We Are.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust, the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time, daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're singers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Please join with me in reciting the words to extinguish our chalice. As we extinguish the flame of this chalice, may we carry its light with us into the world in the power of peace, faith, justice, and love.
For those who came before us, we offer gratitude and thanks. May their memories be a blessing. May we feel surrounded by their love as we go forth from this time and space. Let us be inspired by their lives. Let us honor them by living boldly, loving mightily, and creating a heaven on earth. Remember, you are blessed. Remember, you are a blessing. And above all else, remember, you are not alone. You are never alone. So be it. Blessed be, and let the church say, Amen.